The following program, though incredibly nerdy, is intended for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised, and you probably shouldn't watch if you're an overly sensitive pussy.
How's everybody doing? And welcome on in. Welcome on into another Den of Nerds stream. Yeah, man. We are kicking off the week right. Got some cool stuff to go over with you today. Got some cool plans for the week. Cool videos cooking. All sorts of cool stuff. I hope you guys had an incredible weekend. I had a really good weekend. A lot of chilling, a lot of hanging out with the family. We went to the arcade, which was really fun. Did a little shopping at the Warhammer store, which is always a good time. And man, there's, you know, not to totally show, but there's an incredible amount of really cool Warhammer shit that's available at the Warhammer store. Bunch of Christmas stuff. They actually have like a whole little catalog of what it could be and what you could get there. That's an MC Chris song. That's kind of fun. So yeah, check that out, man. I got a few things myself, got some gifts for people, got some stuff for myself, and I was pretty pumped about it. So that time of year, man, that time of year. I know we've got a bunch of Warhammer fans and budgeting Warhammer fans, people that are going to become Warhammer fans. Oh yes, I can see it happening in the community. It's awesome. So anyway, how you guys doing? Let me tell you what we got on the agenda for today. So let's see here. We've got new Doctor Doom origin leak, new. And we're going to have to get into that. It's being reported right now by Majestic, but I found this on Reddit over a year ago. And so I want to explain what that is. We'll get into it a little bit. It's basically the theory I've been telling you guys about with Doctor Doom for a long, long time. And so I want to get into that, and I want to maybe, you know, do a little nerd venging, you know, dive deep on that stuff, see if we can decipher the truth of it. Then there's, of course, the Mephisto leak. This is blowing up right now. People are really excited. I think Eric Voss is, you know, really, really happy about this. The rumor is that Mephisto is going to be in Avengers Doomsday. Now, here's the thing. Maybe I'm going to bring up, again, something that happened in June of last year. And we're going to talk about a rumor that Alex Perez put out there, but it's worth discussing because it's like, okay, is this maybe an older plan that has been kind of cut? Because frankly, I don't think Ironheart did all that well, and I don't think they're all that interested in maybe connecting the Disney Plus shows as much as the films. So maybe that was an idea that's just a little too much and they're going to abandon it. But I do want to talk about it because it's pretty wild. And I mean, it connects to one of the things I was told that to this day I think is the dumbest thing I've ever heard Marvel was thinking about doing. Some of you might know what I'm talking about already, but there's this thing that they were potentially going to do that I thought was the dumbest thing that I had ever heard. And so I really hope they're not doing that, because it's actually connected to Ironheart and it's potentially connected to Mephisto and shit like that. And I'm like, bro, what? Please no. Please no. So we'll get into that a little bit later on in the show as well. And then I do want to talk about the Sean Levy situation. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Sean Levy had some really interesting comments late last week. I think this shit came out late Friday, or maybe it was Friday and I just took Friday off. Did I take Friday off last week? I actually don't remember. But yeah, we're gonna get into that a little bit today because, man, Star Wars. Oh, Star Wars. Oh, Star Wars gonna Star Wars, I guess. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well. And yeah, that's what's on the agenda for today. Now, the plan this week, guys. The plan this week is gonna be fun. It's gonna be really cool. I'm planning on streaming all the way until Friday. Friday is my birthday, and I'm gonna take Friday off. I've got some cool plans. I'm actually gonna go see the new Kill Bill Whole Bloody Affair, the part 1 and part 2 together at a nice big premium screen. So got some plans that day, but what I'm gonna do is we're gonna stream today. Tomorrow I want to do an evening stream. Okay, I want to do an evening stream, and I want to stream a video. There's a 2-hour video made by A Little Bit of Everything. We've watched his videos before. Very good work, very detailed. And the thing that makes this video particularly interesting is Michael Waldron himself reached out to this guy and told him that everything in this 2-hour video was correct. That is actually how, at least Michael's understanding of how Marvel's multiverse actually works. And so it's a 2-hour video. It's very dense, but I think it's time to do some serious nerd venging. So I will probably be pausing that a lot, breaking it down, giving my thoughts. Expect a 3-hour stream at least. And I want to do that tomorrow evening. If there's news, we'll cover news too. You know what I mean? I think we're actually on the cusp of a whole bunch of news, because I think this weekend, which I will probably stream Friday, guys. We'll talk about that in a moment here. This weekend is a CCXP reveal in Brazil, but there is also a massive Comic-Con in Tokyo. And I've heard big things happening at both of those events for Marvel Studios. Potentially a look at the Doomsday trailer, you know, stuff like that. So here's what I'm saying. Probably gonna stream throughout the week, take Friday off for my birthday, and then Saturday, guys, I believe that's like around 1 p.m. Eastern time. I'm not 100% sure. I'll double check it for you. But my feeling is some big stuff's gonna come out. If it's big, which I think it will be, then I'm gonna flip on the live stream Saturday afternoon, and we're gonna do an emergency stream. Okay, so a lot of streaming this week, but not a stream on Friday. Tomorrow we'll stream in the evening. Wednesday we're doubling up. Regular stream in the morning, member stream in the evening, and we will be doing a deep dive on Doctor Doom and all the times he was a god in Marvel Comics. We were supposed to do that last week, but Stranger Things kind of had the community pretty occupied. Which, by the way, like, I don't even know why. I'm not really loving the new Stranger Things, but anyway, so that's the plan. And then Thursday we'll probably do a regular show, and I'm gonna be honest, we might do a regular show into a Warhammer painting stream. I know, what the fuck, but I figure since it's so close to my birthday, everybody that's complaining about me doing a Warhammer painting stream, well, I can just be like, hey, it's my birthday, I do what I want. So we'll see. I'm not sure. We'll see. I actually really wanted to play that Cosmic Invader game today on stream, but like, dude, I'm just crunched on time because I'm trying to get these two. I actually have 2 really big main channel videos that I've been cooking for a while. Literally 3 editors on these different videos, including myself. And I think you're going to really like them. I think they're cool, but it just takes time, right? So yeah, that's kind of the plan for the week. Now, I also think, next week's good. I think this might be the slowest week of the month, frankly. So we're going to do our thing. We're going to chill. I'm preparing. But the rest of December is going to be insane, guys. I mean, we're going to talk next Monday about whatever's revealed at CCXP. I've heard it's possible some stuff goes up public next week for all of us to see. And that's just going to be crazy. And then we're getting closer and closer to the actual trailer for Doomsday, which will be insane as well. So the month of December is going to be really, really ridiculous over here on basically all of our channels. So let's just enjoy this week. Let's just take a breath and enjoy this week because it's just about to be crazy, man. Okay. All right. That's kind of the show notes for the day. I'll see what you guys are saying, and then we'll get into the topics here in a minute, okay? Let's see here. Cantina Talks. Appreciate you, brother. Says, Josh, you have me addicted to Arc Raiders now. LOL, I was supposed to make content all week, but Arc took over. Yeah, I know how that goes. Arc is certainly taking over. I'm playing it probably way more than I should. It's my go-to game right now. Even tonight, it's going to be hard to, like, justify playing the Cosmic Invaders game because I'm so... I don't know. Arc's great, man. And it's I think it's kind of like came out of nowhere, smash hit. Like, there's a reason it's blowing up, and happy to be a part of it because it's awesome. CC Black says, what about Zootopia box office? 500 million in 4 days. Yeah, you know what's funny is, like, so a lot of Disney haters are not really talking about that, and that includes me because I don't want to talk about it. Let's see here. Luca says, glad you had a nice family time. My time to shine. Hello. Diz wants She-Hulk badly for Secret, or is it a big role? Is it BS, or is Marvel still out of touch? Oh man. So I think, God damn it. Why are we talking about She-Hulk, brother? Why the fuck are we talking about She-Hulk? We're about to get Dr. Doom. We're about to get fucking Tony Stark back. We're about to get fucking Steve Rogers back. What are we doing here? Okay. So a little bit of that energy coming from you. I'm sorry. I understand. I understand the question. I understand whatever, but like, what the fuck? Like, who gives a shit? But I'll answer the question. I think Disney wants She-Hulk in the movie because it's kind of a good look. It's sort of a bad look if Tatiana Maslany's like, yeah, no, fuck Disney. I don't want to be in this movie. And I think that's basically as what it is. Now, there's some reporting that indicates that she's so upset about, you know, Disney's involvement in, I guess, organizations that are friendly to conflict zones or whatever. You know what I'm saying? She's mad about some shit, and she's making a big stink of it. That's her right, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you want me to say. I don't really like the drama content. I don't really like to get into it. I think, honestly, we're literally better off without her in the MCU. That's my opinion. And I think if she really does not want to be in these movies, that's fine. And I honestly can't even really blame her because, look, she had a terrible show. She got a lot of backlash for it because the show was one of those, like, stupid shows that wanted to, like, make fun of its own fandom and then get shockingly mad when the fandom got upset about that. Such a stupid fucking show. But not necessarily her fault. Not necessarily all her fault. But at the end of the day, like, what are we doing here? She doesn't want to be a part of it? Whatever. Like, recast her. Okay, so anyway, this is why, like, I don't, no offense, but like these questions to me, Shine and Daniel just like to stir shit up. They like to get engagement because that's what they do for money. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, man. Like, I'd rather recenter and focus on the stuff that we're actually excited about. Rossi says, got food poisoning at 3 a.m. Sunday morning, was pooping from 3 a.m. to 11. God damn. I was in so much pain with hot and cold flashes. This sounds like me dealing with chat, frankly. No, I'm just kidding. Then threw up 3 times at 11 a.m. Then it all went away. Terrible experience. Yeah, that's tough. What did you eat, dude? What did you eat? Can you warn us so we don't eat it? Was it ranch? Did you catch Daniel RPK being a horn dog on Maine? No, but that's like the most relatable fucking best thing he's ever done if it's true. John says, do you think Horus and Anakin are similar in their fall to the dark side? Yeah. Who do you think had more justification in turning evil? Oh, fucking Horus for sure, even though that's heresy and don't tell the Inquisition. Look, Anakin had beautiful long flowing hair. Horus was bald. Yeah. Okay, let me get through some more of these chats. Are you happy? Are you happy, CC Black? Oh no, you weren't the one that said it. Let's see here. C-Dub says my birthday is the 4th. Jay's is the 5th. Let's go B-Day Bros. Off work Thursday and Friday. Gonna see Kill Bill as well. Oh, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. B-Day Bros. Lou says, Josh, it's been a minute since I have been present for a live stream. This guy's like, present? Let me know, are some things that you're hoping to see in the first trailer? Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. That's a good question, man. Thank you for that. See, that's kind of energy. That's kind of energy I want. CC Black says, Zootopia will make $2 billion. Don't be salty, Josh. No, I am salty. It doesn't make any sense. Why can't Disney just fucking die? And then Marvel gets sold to Paramount. And then we get Giga Chat everything. Holy shit, I didn't want the stream to go this way. CC Black. Either uncooked smoked chicken wings or barbecue at a friend's house. Damn, brother. You gotta watch yourself, man. That's a bad combo of possibilities there. Undercooked smoked chicken wings. Yeah, probably the smoked wings, brother, and maybe both, to be honest. But if it's real bad, it was probably the chicken wings. Probably some old ass cheap chicken wings sitting in its juices for weeks, and then they smoked at the wrong temperature, not long enough. So you got smoked salmonellas, which you got, dog. Jesus Christ. Josh, are you teasing chairs 2 Saturday afternoon? No! Not sure if this was talked about, but what if the family dinner scene from what we thought was Fantastic Four is interrupted by Doom and Doomsday? That would be very cool. That would be fun. Do you think that Tony Stark's dad in Iron Man 2 on the old tape recording saying you're my greatest creation will have more significance after Doomsday? Whoa, that's kind of an interesting thought. I like that. Yeah, that would be interesting. Get ready. Avatar 3 will make $2 billion too. CC Black, brother, what are you doing to me right now? Damn. Okay. Fine. Maybe Disney will survive. So they better fix their shit and make Giga Chad content any goddamn way. Do you think Tony Stark's dad or the old? Yes, brother. I just read that, Paul, and I think you're onto something there. Whew. Man. I mean, you guys, that's about to be a Warhammer stream. It's about to be a Warhammer stream. Holy. Okay. Let's just get into some stuff, huh? Let's get into some stuff since you guys are so unruly today. What's going on out there? Why y'all so unruly? It's the holidays. Start painting? Oh, that would be awesome. Did you see the Warhammer shirts I put onto the Warhammer Discord? I'll have to double check, man. I've been just kind of popping in a little bit. I'm less active over the weekend. But I will certainly check them out. And to be honest with you, I told Elisa I would, because she doesn't know really what to get me for Christmas. And I was like, don't buy me any models just because, like, you know, that's going to be too complicated to explain what I need, blah, blah, blah. But the merch is always good, and she knows my armies and whatnot, so yeah. What did you dislike about Stranger Things, and did you not watch all 4 yet? So I have not watched the 4th one yet. I'm really hoping it saves it for me, man. But, dude, it's just not doing it for me. Everything feels very contrived. I feel like we're going through a lot of motions. I will say that the stuff with Hop and 11 is actually the most intriguing part, but that's probably just because it's all action-based. They all, like, dude, what's the young black girl's name? When she popped up and I was like, damn, she looks 42. I was like, holy shit, this fucking show, dude. This girl was literally like teeny tiny just a couple of years ago. Erica looks, I mean, Erica. Yeah, I'm not vibing with it. I'm hoping the 4th one, because, like, dude, here's the thing. I'm not vibing with it. Elisa's really not vibing with it. In fact, she was so negative in the first 2 episodes, and I was like, give it time. But that 3rd episode kind of broke me a little. And now we're both like, pfft. Like, we're literally like, we'd rather watch Supernatural. So we're going to give the 4th one a shot. I'm a kind of person, it's very hard for me. I feel so invested that I need to finish it. You know what I mean? But, yeah, dude, this shit is not it. Y'all lame? Well, look, I know there's a lot of people that are enjoying it, the episodes, and I know they're highly rated and whatnot, you know? So I'm not sitting there saying, like, everybody agrees this shit sucks ass. But I'm kind of starting to think that, maybe. Oh, let's see what CC Black has to say here. Disney is the GOAT. Will win box office in a down year. Yeah, maybe. VTJB Production says, I agree with you. The first 3 episodes of Stranger Things were rough and felt like SNL skits with the actors playing young versions of themselves. Maybe the 4th episode slaps, though. Yeah, and it's also like just all the conversations are so contrived. And even like, dude, I'm even watching that scene where like Will's supposed to be taking control and autonomy and kind of stepping out of the shadow of his mom. And it's just like an eye-rolling, cringe-inducing scene to me. And I'm just like, none of the moments are hitting. None of this feels like it used to. I just feel like it's in fucking shambles. It's basically in shambles. Joshua Campbell says, only reason Avatar makes money is the Doom trailer. Hey, there you go. That's some great cope. I'm going to steal that. Okay. Can we talk about some stuff, guys? What just happened? I think the interdimensional beings are out in spades, guys. This is crazy. I don't know what just happened there. Okay. So let's get into this. Let's start doing some news. Let's make some donuts. Okay. Chat, pause the music, man. Jesus. Okay. Shao. Can we get into this a little bit? So this, I want to explain this because it is new, but it's also kind of not new. And I think right now, you know, particularly with this Count Majestic, who has really just kind of come onto the scene really strong and blown up a lot and is, you know, doing all sorts of scoops and talking about the trailers and you know, has become a name pretty quickly. But there's a lot of skepticism over what this person knows, how accurate they are, et cetera, et cetera. I want to explain sort of in thorough, you know, my usual, like way too deep, way too nerdy way, what I think is going on here. But let's first speak to the report that basically just came out yesterday. Even though this is dated in October 2025, the account Majestic has literally like just been recircling this, and it's becoming, wait, is this the right one? Let me just double check here. Yes, this is the right one. But you know what? I want to look at the version on over here because I think it's a little bit more succinct. Okay. So let's pull it up like this and let's go over this. Okay. Again, this is currently being reported by Majestic. Okay, but I will explain where this comes from before Majestic and what I think is going on here. Okay, so He Who Remains created 616, a sacred and controlled timeline to hide the true history of the multiverse. Victor Von Doom was considered too dangerous, so He Who Remains rewrote him into the 616 timeline. The rewriting turned Doom into Tony Stark with the same mind altered and a new identity and life as a hero. Tony Stark always felt like he didn't fit in with his family because his real life had been stolen. Those feelings of not belonging are echoes of Doom's original identity trying to awaken. The time travel Tony used in Endgame was deliberately allowed by He Who Remains. He Who Remains permitted those time travels because he needed a variant of Loki to survive outside of his control. The survival of that Loki variant was part of He Who Remains' plan to prepare for future events. The main purpose of He Who Remains was not permanent peace, but to prepare for a multiversal war against the Kang variants who betrayed him. When Tony Stark dies, a key piece of He Who Remains' control disappears. We're going to come back to that. That's really interesting. With the death of He Who Remains, the barriers containing realities break, and all versions of Doom come back into existence. Among those versions, the Doom who fought and lost in the multiversal war regains his memory. Upon uncovering his memory, that Doom feels humiliated for having been turned into a puppet of He Who Remains. That humiliation becomes his driving force. Doom doesn't just want revenge. He wants to rebuild the multiverse his own way. Okay. So, you might recall we went over this before. Maybe some of you do. I'll look at chat here in a second. Do you guys remember going over this before or not? So, this was out there around June of last year, which is actually going to become a really, really important time. And, I like to kind of keep track of how these things happen so that I can later revisit the validity of them. And another story we're going to talk about in a bit here, which is the Mephisto story, is also going to connect to that time period as well. So this is now being circulated again by Majestic. Now, what I think I know about this and why I think this is coming out again now is basically, I think all the scoopers, and this goes back to that Discord that people got into or were perhaps allowed into. Back in June of last year, I strongly feel as though they got a massive info dump from various sources, maybe just one source inside Marvel Studios. And I think from that massive info dump, a lot of that info then, it's not like the scoopers just tell you everything. They sort of keep it all, and then they sort of drip feed it out, right? Because they want, more engagement, more Patreon subscriptions or whatever, visits to a website. So they sort of drip that info out. But I think they usually get it in big bulk things. And that's just because that's my experience as well with sources. You usually get it in bulk. And then you're like, sometimes they're like, you can't talk about this for a while. You can't talk about this for a while. So maybe that's a little bit of it, but it's probably more just they're holding off to continue to make content. Well, the way I understand it is Majestic either got access or was given access to that Discord. And so to Majestic, all of this stuff is basically new. And so I think, I could be wrong about this, but my speculation is that like what is happening right now is Majestic and maybe some others are getting information that is potentially a year old or more that for them is like the first time they're hearing it. And so they're posting it all because to them it's new and it's fresh and whatever. And part of me actually thinks that the actual scoopers let these people in to throw other people off the scent, to allow some of this information to get out there into the wild in different accounts. Like literally, I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Because I think even Majestic is still in contact with some of the scoopers that are in that Discord, and he's literally being given permission to say some of the stuff that he's saying. Okay? So, with all of that in mind, you must ask, well, what does that mean for it? Like, is this valid? Is this not valid? I mean, I feel as though it is valid because although Majestic may not be getting new information, and although Majestic might not be getting, new sources, I think because all of those other scoopers were accurate the entire time and kind of knew what was going on, or at least had a bunch of info for a long, long time, I think that Majestic, therefore, is accurate because he's mostly paying attention to, like, super accurate people. That could obviously not be real. And I've told you before, some of these scoopers will, after they get a platform or a profile, start listening to too many voices and reporting too many things, and that's how they sort of get caught up. However, going back to this, right, and thinking through some of the more recent things that have been said from the scoopers, and I'm talking about within the last 3 to 4 months here, I'm starting to feel as though they knew about this like a long, long time ago. Okay? So let's go through it again with sort of the new leaks in mind, okay? So He Remains created the 616 or Sacred Timeline, controlled the timeline to hide the true history of the multiverse. I mean, we literally know that's true. We know that's true from the Loki show, through B-15's memories, through Ravonna Renslayer's memories, even through Victor Timely memories and memories from, what's the guy's name that Henyan played? He's a fun character. It wasn't Paradox, but I forget that character's name. But we know kind of that that's true, right? So there's a true history being hidden. And the sacred timeline, which is Earth 616, is controlled. Victor Von Doom was considered too dangerous, so He Remains rewrote him into the 616 timeline. Well, that's OB, thank you. So that actually sounds like stuff that Alex Perez has talked about, right? Alex literally said, and I'll, I wonder if I have it pulled up, actually. Let's see here. Avengers Forever, Council Mephisto, main reason too many stories plot-wise can't be considered average runtime. No, we'll have to come back to that idea. But basically, Alex has talked about how in the original version of how this was going to go, like when they thought Kang was going to work and before Majors got in trouble, the Kang Dynasty in Secret Wars was basically going to explain that Victor Von Doom was considered too dangerous. Maybe the X-Men were as well. And Alex even said that the X-Men and Doctor Doom might have well been the focus of the saga after Secret Wars and Kang Dynasty. So that totally makes sense. Victor Von Doom was considered too dangerous, so he rewrote him into the timeline. Rewriting turned Doctor Doom into Tony Stark with the same mind altered as a new identity and life as a hero. Now, this is really interesting because it kind of connects to some stuff that Alex said about Victor or the Fantastic Four in 838, which, by the way, I have a video coming out right now. I'm working on it. Going to do some more editing on it tonight. I've been teasing to you guys about how there are other characters than Tony that are fake. And this is the video where I'm finally going to let a little bit of that out. And I'll tease something to you right now. I think both Scott Lang and James Rhodes are not actually Scott Lang and James Rhodes. So watch the video. It'll either drop tonight or it'll drop tomorrow. But I am starting to, I think I know where they might be going with that. No, I mean 838. I mean 838. Let me explain. Maybe I'm getting lost in the sauce here, okay? So, in 838, when Stephen Strange meets the Fantastic Four and is introduced to the idea of the Fantastic Four, Stephen Strange says, weren't you guys a band, or didn't you chart in the 60s, referring to a band? And Alex literally said, that is because that Stephen Strange has a memory of the real universe that was altered. So instead of the actual memory that he had from the Prime universe, which included knowing the Fantastic Four as astronauts that went up in the 60s, and you know, got their cosmic rays and got the power, okay? So in the original version for Kang Dynasty, it was basically going to be revealed, and we know that, remember, Stephen Strange was always going to be a big part of this. He was connected to Kang. It was maybe going to come down to Kang versus him, and the heroes were going to be like, oh, actually, Kang's right. Doesn't that sound familiar to, it's going to be Doom versus, I don't actually think it'll be versus Steven now. I think Steven's going to work with him, but this idea that Steven is the most dangerous threat to the multiverse, you know, there's always been something planned with Stephen Strange for Secret Wars, okay? And I think it's that Steven is prime Steven. He is a real Stephen Strange. There's a lot of fake motherfuckers out there, but Steven is a real one. And that is, I think, why he had the memories. That's going to come into play in a second here. Because it says here, Tony Stark always felt like he didn't fit in with his family because his real life had been stolen. Now, again, this is kind of connecting to this idea of like, okay, these characters were written into the roles by He Who Remains, literally authoring the entire timeline. So is it possible that the memories of what were will never truly leave? And you know what's kind of interesting about that is it reminds me of the line that Thanos had at the end of Endgame. Okay, now the reason this is important, really just lean in and focus to this part, okay? The reason this is important is because it's very obvious now that the Doomsday movie and what was going to be Kang Dynasty is actually a sequel to Endgame more than anything. Loki was sort of a interlude between Endgame and what was once Kang Dynasty and what became Doomsday. That is like so obvious to me. If you've been paying attention to the rumors, that's what it is. But what's interesting about what Thanos says is he says to Tony, he says literally, I'm grateful you showed me this. Because I originally thought I could snap away half of the life and I would have a grateful universe. But what I realize now is people will never be able to let go of the memory of what was. So now I'm going to tear this universe apart atom by atom and remake a grateful one. Okay? So that idea was in the mind of Parliament, was in the mind of Kevin Feige, was in the mind of Michael Waldron, even all the way back to writing Loki season 1 and, you know, doing Endgame and all of that sort of stuff. Okay, so just think about how these things have been set up and are, because if you've studied Marvel as long as I have, you realize that one of the things Kevin's really brilliant at that he doesn't get a lot of credit for is getting the normies to accept high-level ideas. So Thor is a movie that without it working, we cannot do Doctor Strange. And Kevin has talked about this. He said, we had to make the magic work via Thor in order to dial that up for what was going to come in Doctor Strange and on and on and on. And so these ideas are sort of introduced into the audience. And like you can see, I have like multiple books where this is discussed and stuff like that. But just trust me, like this is something they do, okay? So let's keep going here. Those feelings of not belonging are echoes. Isn't it interesting that he uses the word echoes of Doom's original identity trying to awaken? The time travel Tony used in Endgame was deliberately allowed by He Who Remains. He Who Remains permitted those time travels because he needed a variant of Loki outside of his control. Now that's like a whole nother thing. I think you could get really lost in the sauce on that. But basically what he is saying is, remember in Loki season 2, where even after breaking the rules of time travel within the TVA and literally being able to travel anywhere in the multiverse and use causal time travel, basically he comes to odds with Kang again and realizes that even that was planned. All of that was a part of the plan. Loki is the other failsafe. He's the other failsafe, okay? The survival of that Loki variant was a part of He Who Remains' plan to prepare for future events. The main purpose of He Who Remains was not permanent peace, but to prepare for a multiversal war against the Kang variants who betrayed him. So that's always a part of the idea. I think all of that makes sense. When Tony Stark dies, a key piece of He Who Remains control disappears. With the death of He Who Remains, the barriers containing realities break, and all versions of Doom come back into existence. Among those versions, the Doom who fought and lost the multiversal war regains his memory. Now, let's go back to this idea of echoes of memory. Let's go back to what Alex Press said about Stephen Strange and his memory of the Fantastic Four. So what this means is Tony Stark dying eliminates He Who Remains control. Now, let's stop for a second. What's weird about that? Does anybody have any questions, or perhaps is there something about that that's a little bit odd, maybe? Because there is. But what do you guys think? What do you guys think? What do you think? I know it's a Monday. We're just getting the juices going here, but what do you think about that? What is interesting about that? I don't see how Doom stays interesting after Secret Wars without RDJ with his backstory. Yeah, no, that's a fair point. Why is Kang? Well, so what's interesting about that is we know that the time heist was intentional, or rather permitted. And you would assume all the events of Endgame were therefore permitted, but think about it. Loki was pulled out of the timeline before the end of Endgame. Okay? So you got to think about this. It is possible the death of Tony Stark happens again after the Secret War. I know. Crazy, right? Okay, anyway, let's try to stay on target. So Tony Stark dies. A key piece of He Who Remains control disappears. With the death of He Who Remains, the barriers containing realities break, and all versions of Doom come back into existence. Among those versions, the Doom who fought and lost in the multiversal war regains his memories. Now, to me, this connects to a lot of the whole thing with Doom has a vendetta against the multiverse. It connects to this idea that might even be in the trailer where Doom is talking about this eternal prison. Remember, there's rumors and leaks that Victor's going to speak of an eternal prison that he must break out of. And I think it's this. And if Doctor Strange is going to support Doctor Doom, which that is the indications of all the rumors, that's what we think is going to happen. Why? Because they're both the prime variants of the character. They're both the real characters. Doesn't that make sense? So, among those versions, the Doom who fought and lost the multiversal war regains his memory. Now, we really don't know which variant of Doom this is. By the way, and I'm working on a big video on this, but it's actually kind of really heady and trippy, and it's taking a lot of script writing to sort of explain this simply, but I'll try to give you a little bit of a thing here on it, okay? Let's talk about Ralph Bohner. What happened with Ralph Bohner? What really happened with Ralph Bohner? I want you to think about this, okay? So, Agatha claims that she just grabbed up some random person and using her magic was able to give him the powers of the actual character. Okay. But if the multiverse, like let's just assume that Ralph Bohner is the prime variant. Okay. Is it possible that what really happened was sort of grabbing up something from, I don't know, an alternate dimension, maybe like the prime version of the universe, and sort of bringing it into our universe and placing it within maybe what you would call a sort of receptacle or the body of this being? I think there's something to the Ralph Bohner thing. And to be honest with you, I think there's something to Chris Evans being the Human Torch and being Steve Rogers. Okay? As we've sort of seen in Deadpool and Wolverine, although I don't know how much this was intentional, that version of Johnny actually is, to me, a little bit more like Steve than you would expect. And in fact, he's so much like Steve that Deadpool thinks he's Steve, and he kind of acts a little bit more heroic and serious than maybe you would expect Johnny to act. I think it's possible, and I'm not sure, but I think it's possible that Marvel's actually going to give us a really crazy explanation for what all of that actually is. And I do think it's possible that we're literally getting remixed characters from the Prime universe. But, okay, so that's a little bit trippy. We're going way down on a rabbit hole on that. But anyway, think about this. The Doom that fought and lost in the multiversal war regains his memories. Upon recovering his memory, that Doom feels humiliated for having been turned into a puppet of He Who Remains. The humiliation, it becomes his driving force. Doom doesn't just want revenge. He wants to rebuild the multiverse his own way. This, to me, is still the best possible motivation for the RDJ thing. I know there's a lot of effort from the scoopers to tell you that it's about his family and it's about the destruction of the multiverse and all these other things, but it never felt right to me. If you understand the character of Victor, none of that shit makes any sense. The only thing that really makes sense is Doom being the Prime Universe version and him being rewritten into Tony, and he's going to regain his memory. He's going to realize what happened. He's going to be super fucking pissed. He might even then be willing to sacrifice his own family because he thinks that universe is fake as fuck anyways. And then he's willing to do anything to take over the multiverse, break that cycle, and end it. Because, yeah, you would be willing to do anything, right? You would be willing to do anything if you thought that. So what's really interesting about this is, again, Majestic has been saying a lot lately that my theory's right. I mean, I had a whole conversation with him about it. And I think it's because he has access to actual info now. And I think that this actual info is laying out pretty much the case for it. The one thing I can't figure out, though, is why are all the scoopers lying about this? Are they being lied to about this, or are they working for Disney? You know what I mean? Like, that's legitimately like what I don't understand. And, you know, maybe the Occam's razor explanation is Marvel has become more sophisticated in the way they're hiding their leaks. I've talked about this theory before, but, you know, I think they might have found a way to create stories that are so similar to what their actual plans are that the fake info then checks out with a lot of, like, internet detectives, and then they get spread around. So just wanted to kind of touch on this. I'm interested in what you guys think. What do you think of this? And also, and this is maybe a really important part of the question, do you think the trailer will start to put this to bed? Do you think the trailer, after we watch the trailer, do you think it's going to be basically obvious that, you know, my theory was correct and that this is what they're cooking? That is a really interesting element about it. I can finally chat again. I hate all of this. Ban him! Get him out of here! Welcome, and you're gone. Josh, if your theory does not turn out to be right, what are the odds that you will like the movie? Well, frankly, if my theory's not right, then it's basically just a version of him sacrificing. I think there's still a lot of ways it could go that would be cool. Because even if it's just like, okay, Franklin, and he sacrificed Franklin, or maybe Franklin and them all died, and he took all these powers or whatever, there's so much evidence that what's really happening here is a dark version of Doom that is hell-bent on destroying the multiverse no matter what. That's badass. So I can get down with that. But I'm going to be honest with you. I think this shit is real. I think it's giving everyone an excuse to make content that people are going to run with because everybody wants to know what's going on. Well, there's certainly truth in that. I mean, it's one of the most, I think, interesting things going on in fandom in general. So there's obviously a lot of interest there. I mean, the RDJ thing is crazy. He was the most famous. This is why it's so wild. He was the most famous actor playing the most famous character. Like, seriously, we've talked about this before, but you look at some of the statistics of Marvel, it was blowing up as social media was so prevalent that the only thing that really compares to just overall impressions over the last 15 years is like Minecraft. You're talking about billions and billions of impressions and views. so many people know not only about Marvel, but more specifically about RDJ as Tony Stark, that when you bring him back as a different character, it is inherently interesting. What you have to ask yourself is it just an inherently interesting thing? And did they do it just because it's inherently interesting? Or is there something more going on? And I think that the odds are there's something more going on. Does that make sense? Do half the casuals even know who He Who Remains is? A lot of people will watch Doomsday who wouldn't have watched post Spider-Man. I think that's a fair point, and I would say that in some ways connecting it to Endgame solves that problem because, you know, look, Deadpool and Wolverine was huge. By the way, did you see how much money that thing cost? That's so stupid, bro. What are we doing? What are we doing? $500 million on this fucking thing? What are we doing? But Deadpool Wolverine was big, and that involved the TVA and shit like that. I think people at least are aware of the multiverse and the TVA. So TVA, multiverse, Loki, Endgame, those are like your thick branches. You know what I mean? And everything else is sort of peripheral. True, there's probably leaking fake news. No one seems to want to put their reputation on the line and say for certain who Sadie Sink is and the villain of Brand New Day is. Yeah. I mean, do you have a theory on the colors of the titles, Doomsday Green and Secret Wars Iron Man colors? Yeah. So, look, I'll tell you what I think it is. So, Kang Dynasty was originally just, going to be Kang, and then there was going to be God Emperor Doom, I strongly feel, in Secret Wars. Secret Wars was originally white because I think originally they were going to bring RDJ back as God Emperor Doom wearing white in Secret Wars. And then he was really going to be the villain of the X-Men saga. Okay, that's like some stuff Perez said and, some speculation. But I think when they changed it to Doomsday and Secret Wars with the Russos, the color choices were also intentional. Doomsday is green for Doom. The Iron Man or the Secret Wars logo is orange and red for Tony Stark. And I feel like, yes, that's what they're doing. 1.5 is a lock if the movie's well received with Jackman. Yes, no, I 100% agree with that, yeah. It kind of changes Doctor Strange's quivering finger one at the climax of Endgame. Maybe he was actually nervous because he realized they live now only to have Doom instigated cataclysm to come. There is some evidence that Steven knew more than he let on, yes. And that will be a fascinating thing because here's the thing. What maybe you're missing at that question, that's a great question, but maybe the thing you're missing is, what version of Steven are you talking about? Because we have potentially a version that had his memories altered, and then we have the Prime version. And as far as we understand it, even all the way into Multiverse of Madness, that's still not Prime Steven because he doesn't remember the Fantastic Four. So at what point did Steven, when he opened the Darkhold maybe, when he opened up his third eye, when did Steven know what was going on? Why was he so willing to go with Clea? I mean, there's a lot there, right? So Steven knew, but were those memories hidden? You know what I mean? How do we get out of Secret Wars and back to Endgame fight with Tony snapping if after Secret Wars we go back to the Prime 616 where RDJ isn't Tony? Because what's going to happen is, in my opinion, I don't know for sure, okay? But what's going to happen is Tony Stark still did the snap. Okay? Tony Stark still did the snap, and he did it before the second Secret War. But what's going to happen after the reset is you essentially will just get that story, and then maybe, oh my God, miraculously, Tony Stark actually is alive, and then he's a different actor. Does that make sense? But that's a trick. That's a good question, but I think there's a way out of all of this. Time is a loop, right? So the end game will come back into the fold. Yeah, so I kind of teased this last week, but I'm pretty sure it'll be like either Agents of Axis or Agents of Asgard version of Loki, where he becomes God of Stories, and he sort of grabs up and crystallizes or codifies these moments in time. Big ones from Marvel's past, like the Kree-Skrull War, Civil War, Avengers vs. X-Men, etc. And then when the new timeline is reset, he just places those back into the timeline. Now, what I think would happen is, because let's just say, because we're going to talk about Tom Cruise Iron Man a little bit today. Let's just say, for instance, Marvel has this big secret plan to make Tom Cruise Iron Man after Secret Wars. Okay? So what that would mean is at some point, either during Secret Wars or after it, we would get a scene, a montage, or maybe some flashbacks to scenes we had already seen with RDJ, but they would be, I don't know, face swapped or just reshot, use some movie magic to have it actually be Iron Man or Cruz. And then it would be either, okay, the snap didn't kill Tony, so the timeline's a little bit altered because maybe Tony didn't die, or Tony's miraculously back. And everybody just recognizes him as actual Tony. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm saying, like, I would do that. I would do that in a heartbeat. Because maybe what our DJ Iron Man really cares about is his family. Do you know what I'm saying? I think Ryan Gosling's already our new Tony Stark. Yeah, I don't know about that, but I do hope our new Tony Stark is... Like, I want to go back to the older Tony Stark energy. I want him to be a playboy. I want him to have swagger. I want him to be quippy and rude and smart. Yeah, I think there's a way that our next Iron Man is incredible, and we really I would say we really need to get back to that Hugh Hefner energy. That kind of energy with Iron Man. And if they do that, I think a lot of people will embrace it. Yeah, mullet, porn stash, lots of alcohol. That's the Tony we need. That's the Tony we need. Oh yeah, Vince. Yeah. I mean, look, it's just that's what it is now. I'm sorry. I don't. Not gonna play that shit anymore. I actually have an idea on how to make Tony snap during Secret Wars, but it would be trippy, and I doubt Marvel would do it. I'll throw it into the chat or send it to me privately, whatever. Yeah. Okay, I think that's probably enough on the first topic there. I can't believe that was 31 minutes. Y'all should have stopped me. That's fucking crazy. I'm gonna have to edit the shit out of that later. Okay. Shall we talk about some other shit here, eh? Can we talk a little bit about Mephistos there, eh? Let's talk a little bit about Mephistos, okay? So, okay. Mephisto, kind of a meme in the community. Basically since around WandaVision, I would say. And the thing that's wild about this is because, again, I so much gets covered in the Marvel space and so many people forget things. But I think a lot of people forget that, there was a reason that Grace Randolph, heavy spoilers, Eric Voss, and I don't know, even myself probably got in on this a little bit. There was a reason all those people were saying Mephisto. Because Mephisto was going to be in WandaVision. I mean, isn't that a little bit obvious? In hindsight, now that we get the actual Mephisto drops in both Agatha, but also obviously in Ironheart, isn't that obvious that, yes, this is something that they were cooking? And the truth is, they were going to have Doctor Strange in that, John. Dude, Marvel Phase 4 was going to be a lot different before Sony grabbed back Spider-Man and the pandemic delayed everything and everybody got everything got screwed up. But a lot of other mistakes, Marvel made a lot of mistakes as well. But the point I'm trying to make is, there's a reason people were bringing up Mephisto, okay? It was real. And just like the Doctor Strange thing, they pull it, and it's not in the show. However, so much was made of that, and Eric Voss, of course, was maybe the leader of that in Mephisto, and it was very funny, the content he made, and all the memeing and self-referential humor and everything, right? So we get to a point where it's a thing now. Mephisto's a thing. And yes, Mephisto is dropped in Agatha. And yes, Mephisto is seen in the Ironheart show, which I never even saw. I never even watched that scene. I never even watched that episode where that scene is at, okay? But yeah, he was in there. I do know that he was in there, okay? So that takes us to over the weekend where, again, Majestic is out here saying that Mephisto is going to be in Avengers Doomsday. And myself and a lot of other people, I think we had this reaction of really? That seems crazy. That's an overstuffed movie already. And it just seems crazy to like also throw Mephisto in here. Now, we're going to talk about this shit because there's a reason to believe it could be real. And there's actually a really scary possibility here. That's like one of the worst fucking things I've ever heard Marvel ever consider. Holy shit, this better not be true. But I want to take you back to June of last year, where Alex Perez said this. However, I will take the opportunity to mention a rumor about a possible adaptation of elements of the Avengers Assemble / Avengers Forever event. Hey, remember when Papa Josh talked to you guys about that? Y'all remember that shit? Which is a storyline involving a multiversal Council of Mephisto variants known as the Council of Red, multiversal Masters of Evil, and then Avengers team up to save the day before all of existence is destroyed. I might have to look into that storyline given Mephisto's coming introduction into the MCU, but it might be an interesting story to adapt heading into Secret Wars. Now, this was June of last year, and look, we basically know that the Avengers Forever shit is at least real partially, and this whole multiversal Masters of Evil thing seems real. And an Avengers team up to save the day before all of existence is destroyed. That sounds like the third act of Doomsday that James Mackwell and Majestic leaked. And that's because Alex Perez had access to this last June in the Discord, which Majestic just got access to a couple of months ago. And so it's all fresh for him. Don't you see what's happening here? Now, here's the thing. Doesn't mean it's actually going to be in the movie, though. Okay? And this is where maybe Majestic's going a bad way. Because, again, this was a year ago. We know they've made a lot of changes to this movie. They delayed both movies by 7 months. They're shooting another ton of additional photography at the beginning of next year, and we haven't heard shit about Mephisto basically since this, okay? Now, maybe it's still in there. Maybe it's still in there. And maybe it's connected to Doom, a deal with the devil, and some real crazy possible things that are going on. Because one of the things that's interesting, of course, is that in comics, Mephisto and Doom, beef, bro. Beef. Mephisto has Doom's mother's soul for a lot of comics. Mephisto is the one that when Doom first travels to hell to try to get his mom's soul back, he gets the scar from Mephisto. Mephisto's actually terrorizing Victor with nightmares and things of that nature, which is part of why he seals himself in the armor so that Mephisto can no longer have access to him. Okay, so Mephisto and Doom have beef. By the way, Dr. Doom has been so strong that he's literally punched the shit out of Mephisto in hell. So that beef is not just one-sided. Victor eventually gets the upper hand on him. And in this story of the Avengers Forever, the Council of Red is subservient to the Doom above all. Now, they have their own thing going on. I think they try to like backstab Doom a little bit, if I remember correctly. But they are subservient to the multiversal Masters of Evil and to the Doom above all. So, I guess going back to what Majestic said, is this new or is this Majestic regurgitating old information that is no longer in play? That, I think the jury is out on. As far as does this come from real shit, I think so. And I think these comments from last June from Perez feel very similar to a lot of the rumors we've gotten in the last 3 to 6 months, right? Because they probably all knew back then. And so I wonder, man, why'd they make that Wonder Man show? But also, I wonder what is going on with this. Is this actually going to be in the movie? I think it's possible, man. I think it's possible. A couple of reasons why. I think they're trying to set up some supernatural shit here for Midnight Suns and Blade and some of the things they're going to do later. I also think there is a Scarlet Witch movie still. I just don't think it's anytime soon. It's likely out of Secret Wars. It's likely, I mean, I heard the plan was she's going to fight the first demon ever, which I think is Mephisto, or not Mephisto, but the Darkhold homie, Chthon. So I heard that was maybe a thing, okay? And there's obviously a lot going on with the Maximoff family, you know, being built up via the Agatha show, and also Speed is going to be in the Vision show, and that whole thing, right? Good version of Wanda in the X-Men universe, et cetera, et cetera. So reason to believe that Mephisto is potentially involved. Remember, too, there is a variant or one of these Doctor Dooms that I heard about that had a gold mask with horns, right? So that's kind of another interesting element. But now let me tell you just one other thing here, because holy shit, they better fucking not. I have it on very good authority that when the Kang thing was still a major part of Phase 4 and 5, the plan was to introduce that Ironheart, Riri Williams, Riri Williams, was actually a Kang variant. And the way it was described to me was she was the real Kang variant, meaning probably the Prime Kang variant, maybe? Holy shit, what a terrible fucking idea. Please don't do that shit. But you can even see now in retrospect how even that makes a little bit more sense with some of the stuff we just discussed about how they might have remixed the multiverse, right? I mean, who do you think James Rhodes was if he wasn't James Rhodes? I mean, he could literally be Blade. He could be Nick Fury. Like, he could be all sorts of characters in the Prime universe if he was that. Or maybe it's just a fake-ass Rhodey, right? So, man, I know there was a lot of effort originally going into some of these characters. And I think they wanted to do sort of a Iron Lad thing with Ironheart and sort of make her a little bit more like Nathaniel Richards, and she connects to Kang, and all that's really interesting, blah, 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 fucking blah. But they've gone away from Kang, and I don't think Ironheart really did very well for them. So I don't know that they're going to do that Ironheart thing, and I certainly don't even know if they will do the Mephisto thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just kind of feels like that's maybe a far shot here. But anyway, that's all the reporting and stuff with as far as Mephisto. So technically, yes, new reports out there. I think technically these are old reports, and we haven't really heard much about Mephisto since then. So I'm a bit skeptic of all that. So let's see here. Let's see what y'all are thinking about this, though. I'll pull up the chat. What do you guys think? What do you think of this? Iron Lad, yes. So the plan was to make Ironheart have Iron Lad's backstory. Yes. Damn, I'm mad I missed it. Yeah, what up, what up, what up? James Rhodes was Rhodes from Iron Man 1 and got switched out in Iron Man 2. It's possible. Yeah, low-key still wondering what the ending of Shang-Chi was with the other dimension and dragons. Look like Grendel's from the Null. Yeah, so that is he's a Fear Lord. That's the Dweller in Darkness, who is related to Chthon. These are old eldritch sort of demigods of the Marvel multiverse, Marvel universe. There's like this whole thing with like a character Gaia and all this. Like, it's actually, it is interesting, but essentially that is, you could just think of it as an ancient eldritch evil that was contained in another dimension, sort of adjacent to 616. Beast of Sophane. Yeah, so I do have a P.O. box. I just don't know what it is. Somebody in chat. I think if you even do exclamation P.O. box or something, it'll tell you the address. Josh, you mean Marvel Multi-Universe? Yes, something like that, yeah. Yeah. The Ironheart Iron Lad mashup would have been a cool idea, actually. I could see a scenario in which it was executed well and it could have made her more interesting. Riri in the comics is like, I think, just so terrible and bereft of anything really interesting. So this would have at least been interesting, but it's another case of like stealing an interesting character story and trying to shove it into like a Marvel Now character, you know? And I don't know. I mean, it's probably, there's some of the stuff that's like, maybe it's good that it didn't work out, frankly, you know? And the new Agents of Atlas book had dragons as its MacGuffin. Yeah, and so did what's it called? Fuck. Yeah, the whole dragon thing is connected to a really, really old story. I think it's called the Enuma Elish. And the Chaos Dragon and all that sort of stuff, yeah. I don't hate Riri being Iron Lad. Could be cool, but she has to be a relative. Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's so much more interesting than what they have with Riri currently, and so I do understand that. But again, I have some hangups on it, man. Dragon D's. Hey, you don't say that. Do you think the post-credit scene that got scrapped with Morgan Stark and Tony will somehow connect? Hard to say. I think what's kind of interesting, though, is they have a ton of footage from back then. You know what I mean? There's and look at what they did with Thor and Loki in Deadpool. That's a digitally altered image, you know? That is from Thor the Dark World, and they superimpose Deadpool and they change the background a little bit. So think about what they can do. They can do some crazy stuff, man. Mm-hmm. Are there any original superhero exclusive just to the MCU? There might be. I can't think of any if there are. Maybe Scott Lang was Prime Tony. He does have an engineering degree after all. I mean, yeah, that's kind of interesting, yeah. Yeah. So Spider-Man and Strange's incursion is going to be D-Day 616 Battle in New York then? Really not sure, buddy. I think there's certainly going to be some action in New York. I don't know that there'll be an incursion in Spider-Man. I think there's going to be several incursions in Doomsday. And I guess because maybe Spider-Man happens alongside Doomsday, maybe that would work together, yeah. Yeah, I'm not really sure. Scott was Reed. I don't know what to say. I mean, I have some theories. I have some ideas. Yeah. Bro, when's the earliest we can get a Daredevil trailer or a Doomsday trailer? What are you saying? Doomsday or Daredevil? I think we're going to get something this coming Saturday, dude. So the plan is, you know, I'm taking Friday off because it's my birthday. Saturday, though, I'm going to be paying attention to multiple. There's two big Comic-Cons. There's a Comic-Con in Tokyo. There's a Comic-Con in Brazil. I've heard that both of those cons might get some exclusive footage. Redacted is saying no brand new day trailer till spring. No, wait. No, that could absolutely track, dude. That could absolutely track. And it would kind of make sense. Like, let the Doomsday thing come out and sort of reset the conversation and then be like, oh, by the way, Spider-Man, you know? I think that could work. Grace saying big trailers coming early next week, could be Sunday. Yeah, so I think stuff's going to be seen privately over the weekend, but things will leak. We'll talk about it. And then maybe publicly, maybe some stuff that following week. So as I said, like, this is going to be the slowest week of the month. Maybe after Christmas too will be a little slow, but we'll see. But what I'm telling you is, like, dude, the rest of this month's going to be wild, bro. We're about to get, again, I've been saying it, and some people understand, some people don't. Marvel is about to make the most expensive and involved marketing campaign in the history of the superhero genre happen for Doomsday. A year-long, incredibly expensive, well thought out marketing campaign, the likes of which we have not seen since Endgame and Infinity War. That is happening. How will people respond to it? We don't know. But we know that they're doing it. And it's literally starting like this Saturday. You know? So this shit is about to be crazy. Do you think Tom Holland's Spider-Man is even our MCU Spider-Man? Is there a possibility because we never truly learned Peter's origin or the spider bite? Maybe Tom is a young Tony Stark. I don't think so, but what I'll tell you is this. I think Tom is potentially the prime Spider-Man. I think Tom is potentially the prime Spider-Man. And this goes back to ideas around Kang Dynasty, where Tom Holland was originally the lead of that film. And there was a lot of discussion of, like, maybe he's the anchor being of the 616 or something like that. I'm thinking more and more that this whole prime character thing was because here's another thing I'll tease out. I think a lot of the X-Men were fake too. I think a lot of the Fox X-Men were fake. And I think that's going to be revealed as well. That one's a little more confusing to me. Watch the video that I drop later. We'll go into it a little. But yeah, I think Tom Holland will be revealed to be the prime version of Peter. And I think that's partially why the spell connected to his memory broke shit. Right? Think about that. Okay. I also think it could potentially explain why he's so important to either Doom or to Chithara or Jean Grey or whatever, right? Whatever's going on with Spider-Man could potentially be very, very important. Been rewatching Loki. Is it possible Sadie is just a Loki? That's the big reveal. If not, Sylvie, Doom have been recruited after season 1. I suppose that's possible, but no, I don't think so, bud. Zootopia made 0.5 billion in 5 days. Do you think Doomsday could make, basically you're saying more. I think Doomsday will operate around the same. And I know there's a lot of skepticism, but it really does depend on this marketing campaign. It's all about the marketing campaign, right? Now, Zootopia sort of shows an interesting thing where even amongst all this brand damage that Disney has and a lot of just, people don't like that because they're stinky, people are still willing to show up like in droves for Disney content, especially if it's something they feel Disney has not ruined yet. I think that is really what's important. And it is very smart of Marvel to connect this to Endgame rather than like all the bullshit that came out of the last couple of years. So Marvel's making smart moves with regards to how to build the audience for this thing. I think it'll be reflected. I think it'll operate around the same, maybe potentially a little bit better, maybe potentially a little bit worse. I mean, it's fair to say that there's a lot of brand damage to Marvel. I mean, you know it, I know it. But what I expect is by this time next year, shit is going to be like dialed up to 11. It's going to be crazy. So yeah. Josh, do you think the anchor beings will really matter, or is it just a little in the main story? I think the anchor beings are going to matter, but I just don't know that it's super clear how they matter. You know? Oh, I missed your super? All right, buddy. All right, buddy. Let me see what you got here. I feel like a lot of the weirdness of the leakers started after Toast got smoked. Now they only leak after they know they can or someone else spills. Yeah, there's a lot of that. I would agree with you. I would agree with you on that. I think that's fair. I also think they really don't like Marvel, man. I think they really don't like Marvel. And the other thing is, and I'll tell you this, man, there's stuff I know about the Scoopers that I can't really say publicly, but I'll just say this, dude. That whole group seems to be super butthurt that Kevin wants to shift towards the Chuds. And I think once they realized that that was happening, they started using their platforms to confuse Marvel fans, upset Marvel fans, and hurt Kevin Feige. Like, I literally believe that. I believe they all realized, oh my God, he cares more about chuds and dude bros like Josh than us. And they all started acting fucking different. But I guess we'll see, because I can't really even make that fucking argument because they released 9 goddamn projects in 2025, and most of them were goobly glob. All right, that's probably enough on that shit. Let's talk Star Wars and how fucked they are. Did you guys see this shit with Sean Levy? Let's talk about this. Oh my God, Star Wars. Yo shit is sad. Yo shit is sad. Okay, we gotta talk about this. This is wild. Where are my Star Wars fans at? Star Wars fans, stand up. Star Wars fans, stand up. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about Star Wars, and it's terrible news, as you would expect. Potentially terrible, actually. So let's talk about this. Did y'all see this happen? Sean Levy reveals that he scrapped a whole different idea for the third act of Star Wars Starfighter. Things didn't align, and I was forced to come up with a new idea. And I'm literally right now shooting that section of the movie. Okay, so this kind of wild. A couple of different options on what this is, okay? When I first saw this story, my first sort of knee-jerk reaction, or my instinctual reaction, was, I think I knew Rey was in this movie before Sean Levy did. Meaning, I imagine a scenario in which Sean either saw a video or heard from somebody or heard the rumor online that like people were saying Rey is in Starfighter. And I imagine a world in which Sean Levy was like, that's so funny. These people never know what they're talking about, et cetera, et cetera. And then I imagine a phone call. And I imagine Kathleen Kennedy taking a long drag of a cigar, blowing it, and somehow the smoke comes through the phone and causes Sean to cough. And she says, "You're gonna put Ray in your fucking movie. It's gonna be in the third act, and it's gonna be fucking incredible." You know what I mean? So that's just a thought. Okay, and what am I saying here? What I'm saying is it's possible Sean came up with a really fucking cool movie idea that had a really cool third act and was dope. And it's possible that the corporation of Lucasfilm and Disney and the executives, known as Bob Iger and then Kathleen Kennedy, might have sat him down and said, "Hey man, you're gonna put Ray into this fucking movie, brother. Like, that's happening." So that's like the first option. Okay. And like, holy shit, I really hope that's not what happened, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like we live in a world where expect the worst fucking thing possible for Star Wars, and you're probably not going to be that far off. Okay. The second possibility was that Sean had this whole idea for years, and he wrote this thing with his co-writer from the Adam Project, and this is his thing he's been thinking about for 30 years, and it's Ray. Okay, so maybe Sean is a Ray fan. Maybe a Ray Low. And maybe Sean was so excited about Ray being in the third act of his fucking Starfighter movie. And maybe Kathleen Kennedy called him up and said, "Hey, Sean, I've been watching Josh from the Den of Nerds, and he apologized to me, and we're going to go ahead and pull Ray out of the movie." Wouldn't that be fan-fucking-tastic? I just don't believe it, man. I just don't believe it, man. But man, wouldn't that be awesome? Okay, so those are kind of the two things. The third option is it's some shit we have no fucking idea what it is, and it got removed for whatever reason, okay? Now, the thing that I keep coming back to with this is like, brother, why is he even saying this? Chat, why would you even say this? And that, I think, if you follow this line of questioning, you're going to arrive at a not great place. Yeah, so James has it. He says he's covering his back. Yeah. I mean, what it feels like to me is Sean is trying to cover his ass. And he's trying to get ahead of the backlash that he knows is coming. And he might even be having conversations with other Star Wars creators and thinking of how that all went down and what happened to their careers, et cetera, right? So, I mean, what other explanation could there be? I mean, maybe it's just an offhanded thing. I don't buy it. I think Sean is pretty fucking smart, dude. I think he understands the game. I think he understands social media. They just did Deadpool and Wolverine and turned it into this big, massive hit. He spent a lot of time with Reynolds. I think he understands how all of that goes. I just find it so hard to believe that he would make these comments without some intentionality behind them. And the only thing that makes sense to me is he is trying to cover his ass. So again, I think it's possible that we knew Ray was in this movie before Sean knew Ray was in this movie. What a fucking world. This shit is insane. Really hope that's not what it is. What do you think about this? What do you think about this, guys? What do you think's going on? Do you have some cope? Can you help some of the Star Wars fans out? Or is this just more of the same and Star Wars is totally fucking cooked? Because I'll tell you this. They have the trailers out now. There's an international trailer dropped in the middle of the fucking night last night. I guess it would have been regular time internationally. They're dropping international trailers for Mando and Grogu. They're getting like no views. Nobody gives a shit. That movie is exactly what you think it is. And holy shit, Star Wars. I almost can't believe this is how this shit is going. So a couple of years ago, they came out and actually like had some announcements. They announced Dave's movie. They announced James Mangold's movie. And then they announced Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy's movie. We're not talking about any of those movies right now. We're talking about a movie that's a show that jumped the shark, turned into a movie. And we're talking about a movie that is Ryan Gosling takes new Jedi kid on a fancy adventure to the Rey trilogy. This ain't it, dude. Like, this ain't it. Star Wars is in some trouble, man. And I'm going to be really interested to see how does this Mando Grogu movie do? And then how does this movie do? Because here's the other thing. Like, dude, he's talking about how he's shooting that scene right now. They wrapped, brother. They wrapped it. Now he's shooting a new fucking ending. This is not it. This is not it. So anyway, I've said enough. What do you guys think of this? I pray it's the former, not the latter. Yes. Bro got Star Wars because Deadpool and Wolverine and the Atom Project. Give me a break. Yeah, that's true. I feel like Sean was pissed they made him change the movie, and he's putting that shit on Disney now. Well, does it feel similar to maybe what Adam Driver been saying? Does it feel a little similar to Damon Lindelof? Does it feel a little similar? I mean, look at what's happening, dude. Like, everybody's turning on them. Everybody's turning on them. So did Sean catch wind of what's going? I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying. He wants to distance himself from the shit show that will ensue. It feels like that's what it is, yes. This tracks with everything you've been saying about Iger. I bet he forced changes. Yeah. I mean, Iger's probably heavily involved in that. Yeah, for sure. I'm a Disney Plus Star Wars fan. I'm no help here. Just very confused as to where we are in the timeline. Yeah, I hear you. Many such cases, yes. Ahsoka Season 2 could bring back life. I mean, it could, but holy shit, things are so rough right now. And the thing is, I've heard a lot of great things about Ahsoka Season 2, but dude, Ahsoka Season 1 was not even embraced the way that it could have been because its ending was goobly glob. And Sabine is terrible in that show. So, like, even Ahsoka, which I do think is the best thing they have going on, and, you know, we talk about this a lot in the Discord. Dave, I mean, I still really like Dave, and I think he understands Star Wars. I think he understands some of the characters better than anybody. But is he the guy to run the whole thing? I don't know. And can he run the whole thing while still making, like, really good content? I don't know. It feels like it's in shambles, dude. It feels like it's in shambles over there. Josh, don't forget about The Mandalorian and Grogu to save us. That movie is going to be ass. That movie is going to be cheeks. Like, I haven't heard a single positive thing about that movie behind the scenes. That shit's going to be ass. You understand? So, yeah, I don't think that's saving anything. I've been saying this. Yes, that's true. But you always be saying it, so what does that even mean? Who's directing? Favreau? Yeah, from his couch mostly, but yes. Star Wars is over. Let's raid the Ark. Yeah, Star Wars is over, bro. And Warhammer, I know. No, Warhammer is going to take over that shit, brother. Like, it is. There's so many disaffected Star Wars fans that are just looking for something, man. And I'm telling you, their plan is 16 Rey movies. Their plan is to lecture you about liking Luke Skywalker. Their plan is to call you a fascist if you like the Empire. They fucked it up. Warhammer's going to take in all those disaffected fans. Warhammer is awesome. Warhammer is badass. Warhammer doesn't complain to its own fandom for liking the shit it created. I'm telling you, it's over. They fucked it, man. If Star Wars was smart, they go all Old Republic, big scales, Sith versus Jedi. I don't even think that would work at this point. I think literally you're 10 years too late on that idea. 10 years. Maybe 5 years. Sinners was the best movie of 2025. Badlands was dope, and Stranger Things Episode 4 is peak. Stop sleeping, Joshy Josh. Just kidding. But yeah, always fun around here. Yeah. Hey, I'll check Badlands out when it goes to streaming, where it probably should have released in the first place. As far as Sinners, I'm happy that it's getting its re-release. And Nolan seems to be helping that shit too with the footage of Odyssey and everything like that, and that's cool. You know what I mean? I know that's good for, I like Coogler. I just don't like horror, right? I think Mandalorian would have been a great season, but yeah, terrible movie they're trying to throw together to save Star Wars. Yeah, it feels really bad, man. It feels really, really bad. Final Fantasy VII Saga, what a huge way for Square Enix to step into the arena. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Sinners was mid. What? Badlands is fun in the cinema, to be honest. Yeah, I still think it'll be pretty fun at home, you know? I still think it'll be pretty fun at home. Sinners was incredibly shot. I mean, I've seen some of the shots. It looks incredible, yeah. Yeah. Well, because it's also propped up by the cosmetics, no? What cosmetics? What are we talking about? I might be missing something here. Really excited for the Fallout Season 2 best video game adaptation. I agree with you. And doesn't that come out soon? I agree with you, man. I agree with you. By the way, I also think the Zootopia 2 story does really shed some light on why we heard those stories about Disney looking for new franchises for young males. There's even talk that Disney has approached GW multiple times for Warhammer, and that's actually real. But I just pray that Games Workshop would never do that, right? But the reason Disney is doing that is because they see the data. They see the data that they're hiding from us about Marvel and Star Wars. Now, I think Marvel has this chance, and I think it's because they have Kevin, basically, and also an incredible library of dude bro content that's like 60 years in the making. So they have a lot to fall back on. I think Star Wars maybe has a chance, but Star Wars is trying to act like nothing has happened. That's the difference. Marvel is literally making fun of themselves, and they know shit is to happen, and they're changing it, and scoopers are panicking and all this other stuff. Dude, Star Wars can't even acknowledge this. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know. I mean, I think Star Wars would almost have to fail even more before you'd get, like, an actual change. You know what I'm saying? Warhammer cosmetics, figures, toys. I mean, that stuff sells incredibly well. I must be missing some context. Yeah. Didn't Star Wars have a bunch of books that they made uncanon? Yeah. There was a whole expanded universe of like incredible content that people really enjoyed. And they were like, yeah, no, let's do the Disney version. It was great. KK has 31 days. You think so? Maybe. To be fair, what the fuck are they gonna do? Have Deadpool show up in Ahsoka and say oopsie? That'd be a good start, yeah. Yeah, it'd be a good start. Yeah, I mean, Star Wars has some unique issues, but within that, it's because it also had unique value propositions. Star Wars was like more sacred than Marvel ever was. I mean, Star Wars was... Kevin Feige loved Star Wars before he loved Marvel, you know? Like, Star Wars was so... It used to really mean something. That's why it sucks so bad that it's dead. You know, and that's maybe part of why Marvel can get away with it, because like, yeah, you had a bunch of shitty stuff for a couple of years, but it's comics. Like, it always gets rebooted, retconned, and you try the new #1, you try the new run, and comic fans are also used to going through a lot of shitty content. It's something that Rob and I talked about before, but like, it's true. Like, comic book fans will go through like 30 issues of a shitty book because they love the character and they're like, wow, this is ass. I'll be here next week. You know what I mean? So it's a different thing. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I strongly feel like Star Wars is cooked. With a few shining things here and there. The Maul show, maybe Ahsoka season 2, but then what? 6 Rey movies? Like, for real, what's good about that? There ain't nothing good about that. Nerdzecutive, what up? And let's get some congratulations in the chat for Nerdzecutive. He finally popped the question. I do mean finally, but hey, he popped the question. Ryan is getting married. Congratulations to Ryan. Hell yeah. Which character should Doomsday promotion not reveal at all, in your opinion? I think they're going to, and I think they probably will try to do this, they're going to hide the multiversal Avengers. Bubba. They're going to hide the multiversal Avengers, I think, or at least try to. Yeah. I'm all in for more Daisy Ridley. I'm not. I'm good. I'm good on that, but that's good. It's good to know that there are folks out there that are going to appreciate it. Have you seen cropped Doctor Doom poster for Doomsday? Probably, man. Probably, yeah. Oh my God, Andrew. Beta Ray Bill, Def gonna be in this movie. I don't know about that, but that would be cool. I don't know about all that, but that would be cool. The Boys trailer, season 5 trailer this weekend. Ooh, that's gonna be nice. Yeah, that's gonna be nice. Is there any other stories, guys? Anything else going on? I'll check my noties. I'll check the old Twitters and see if there's anything going on. Ba-ba-da, ba-ba-da, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba, ba-ba-ba, ba-ba-ba, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. $53 months of nerd venging. Any idea when we'll get an official live action Warhammer news, or when we'll have more to speculate on? I need to know where to start reading after I finish the Horus Heresy book. So I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think I'm gonna, and some of you will complain about this, I think I'm gonna start talking about Warhammer a lot more on these streams. Really get the news cycle going on here, and then I'm gonna do clips, but I'm gonna put them on the Nerd Hammer YouTube channel. So I have Warhammer Explained right now, but I also have the Nerd Hammer channel, which originally was going to be a podcast with me and Nerd of the Rings. He wasn't able to commit to it, and so I'm just kind of holding on to, you know, I spent money on like graphic design and stuff for it, so I just have that sitting there. So I think what I'll do is have Nerd Hammer be a little bit more high frequency, less edits, almost like the Clips channel. But I think we're going to talk a lot more about Warhammer in general over here. So any updates as far as right now? Nothing that I can say. Yeah, there's some stuff I know that I can't talk about. I guess what I can say is they're cooking it. Last we heard, they're having a little bit of tough time cracking the scripts. A lot of rumors that it's going to take place in the Scouring. And if you want to, I mean, hey, you want to, should we watch a little video and react to something together here? Because there's some really interesting interviews with Chris Raitt, who is an author at Black Library, and the way he's been talking about the Scouring. And I continue to believe that that time period is going to be the one that Henry chooses to adapt for Warhammer. Yeah. All right. Well, it seems like there's one person that wants to do it, so maybe we'll do it. It's like an 18-minute video. Ryan, you've watched this, right? You think there's some juice in here, just in general, about the Scouring, or do you think that he's talking about actual stuff? Great author. Okay, let's pull this up. We'll end the stream on this one, guys, okay? We'll end the stream on this.
It feels really good. I'm really pleased to be back. It was, I think, writing The Siege of Terror, which was the series just prior to this one, I think, the highlight of my professional career. It was a fantastic experience working with some talented people. The writers' rooms were fantastic. We sort of threw ideas around, and it was just exhilarating to be part of that.
Okay, so let me give you some context here. What he's referring to is, of course, the sort of epilogue series of the Horus Heresy, which is the biggest piece of lore in all of Warhammer. It's the Civil War, which causes the Emperor to be on the Golden Throne. In even first edition, you know, all the way back, there's these old, like, John Blanche drawings and the description of the Emperor who has been on the throne for 10,000 years. So, you know, 40K was always kind of top of mind. The Civil War was always there as a vague idea. At some point, Horus becomes like a general from there, and I think around 3rd or 4th edition, they start to flesh that out. The idea of the Primarchs, the idea of the actual Horus Heresy starts to come into focus. So they go on to create a 60-plus book series, which is all about that Civil War. And they even did another series at the end of it. It's called The End of the Death. Incredible books, which I've read. I haven't read the Horus Heresy, but I've read The End of the Death. And that is all an epilogue of like the last moments of that conflict, okay? Now, when it comes to Henry Cavill's live action show, the biggest question is, are we doing 40K? Are we doing 30K, or are we doing somewhere in between? There's a 10,000 year, gap between that moment, that Horus Heresy, which ends like the Crusade and sort of like the golden age of humanity. And then 10,000 years later in 40K, that's where you get everybody, everything's authoritarian, everything's dead and dying, decaying. Everything's falling apart. It's like, it's a horrible dystopian future, right? What this guy is referring to is his work on the epilogue series of the Major Conflict and the work he's now beginning on a series known as The Scouring. And what he's going to talk about a lot in here is how The Scouring is a really interesting time in the lore, and a part of a time in the lore that's not fully fleshed out. So therefore, this new series is going to be like the next Horus Heresy. It's going to explain all of that time period, and the symbol that was on the collector's edition of the first book in this series was seen in Henry Cavill's first official post about the Warhammer show. It is a similar symbol. It's an Aquila, but one of its sides is decaying, which I think is like dealing with the decay and the traitors and the things in The Scouring. So a lot of evidence to suggest that The Scouring is indeed going to be the focus of Henry Cavill's show.
And I wrote one of those Siege of Terror novels. And so to come back and do a similar kind of exercise where we're working with the multi-author series, trying to kick around ideas and think what's really special about this period of history, but in a different time with its own kind of interesting features, its own aspects, that was great. And I wasn't going to say no to that. It's a big book. I think that's the first thing to say. It tries to cover an awful lot of ground.
Can't wait for this book, man.
I think when we started thinking about this series.
So that is Rogel Dorn on the left side, who was there at the Siege of Terra and actually is like the main reason as to why they were able to hold back the traitors. Dorn and the Imperial Fist are incredible siege tactical warriors, and he was able to, with the help of Constantine Valdor and others, hold back the traitors long enough for this guy to show up, who is Rabute Gilliman. And Rabute Gilliman shows up, and you can see there's a bunch of battle damage on Dorn in the gold, and Gilliman is looking fresh because he just arrived. And so there's going to be like an inherent conflict is being built even on the cover, right?
I went back to Horus Rising, which was the first book of the Heresy series, and sort of thought very hard about. That's a fantastic book. It's a fantastic story, but it also sets up a series really well. It introduces characters that we know about from the lore, but also original characters that have particular purposes in the plots that are going to unfold. So I thought quite hard about doing something similar, kind of introducing characters, some of which we know about, some of which we know nothing about, to really create a new world. And this is a new period of history for Warhammer. It's not a rerun of the Heresy, and it's certainly not a 40K book. This is its own time period. And so thinking about how that was done before, and then thinking about how we can do that in this setting, and create not just a new cast of characters, a new series of events.
Yeah, let me address these super chats just real quick here. Cantina Talk says, wanting to watch the 2-hour multiverse video. What's the channel name? I think it's called A Little Bit of Everything. Again, we're going to watch that tomorrow night together on stream, but of course you can watch it on your own. Totally cool. Vinny says, hey Josh, I want to get into Warhammer and I'm a gamer. What's the best Warhammer video game to get into for the first time? So it's either going to be Space Marine, either Space Marine 1 or 2. If you like action, if you like Gears of War, get into that game. It's going to give you the atmosphere. It's going to give you the vibes, a little bit of lore, nothing crazy. If you're a big RPG person, play Rogue Trader, made by Owlcat Games. They actually have a Inquisitor game that's coming out. I'm so excited to play that. But it's a little bit of Baldur's Gate within the Warhammer universe. Now that one's like very heavy on the lore and very heavy on like explaining stuff. So if you're looking for that kind of experience, check that out. Yeah, those would be my two picks. I do like the Chaos Gate Demon Hunter game. And that's like all about the Grey Knights and fighting demons, and it's really cool, but it's sort of a small slice of the overall lore. There's the old what are those Deathwing games, the ones they did, Hulk, Space Hulk. Those games are just fast twitch, chaotic action, but there's some fun lore and atmosphere in them as well. So those would be my recommendations.
But a different tone, and that felt really important. Like, what is the Scouring sort of almost spiritually for these people, and certainly you know, the way they feel about the universe and what's going on, so that when you're reading this, you feel like you're transported to something that we don't know very much about, And it's a new experience, and it's something that hopefully kind of enriches our understanding of what the Warhammer galaxy is.
Yeah.
It felt really important to...
Which, by the way, if you're a fan of the expanded universe and Star Wars, and I know I'm talking a lot of shit on Star Wars, but just hear me out on this. One of the things that was wild about the expanded universe was it's authors. It's mostly all authors, and they collaborated sometimes outside of their own publishers. They collaborated and created it. That brain trust and actual writers getting together to throw ideas around created the juice of the expanded universe. Like, that's why it was so good. That is what Warhammer is. The Black Library is that, except it's their whole lore. They're never going to abandon it, and it's canon, right? So, like, if you like that kind of shit, guys like Chris Ray are still doing that, but just for Warhammer.
I mean, the psychological effects of what they've just been through by the time we get to this story. So the action takes place relatively quickly after the end of the siege, so that all the events of that period are really fresh in people's minds.
Hell
and
yeah.
there are some flashback scenes where we actually see them emerge from that kind of period of...
And I want you to think about this in the context of Cavill's show, because what he's describing here would work with the show as well, meaning you don't have to do the whole Horus Heresy, and that's crazy. I mean, that's like multiple Primarchs, whole legions being destroyed, incredible epic battles, and all these different things. But what he's saying here is these events are fresh in the minds of the characters. Flashbacks here are appropriate. This is actually, and I think this is maybe why Cavill wants to do it, is like it would bring, first of all, it elevates this new book series, which there's synergy there. And then it would bring Warhammer people in because, dude, they know all about the Horus Heresy. They know all about 40K. They don't know a lot about the Scouring. And so there's like an inherent interest there. But it also allows to sort of do or depict, rather, in the show, some of the Horus Heresy things without having to commit to completely telling that story. So I actually really think that's a useful time period.
Complete destruction. And so thinking about how they would respond to that, and there are very different kinds of characters. There are some Space Marines, there are some non-Space Marines, there are some people right at the top of the hierarchy of both sides, and there are some people right at the bottom. They're all going to respond differently, and they're all going to be profoundly affected by it. So even people who have lived through the heresy period and are now into the Scouring period, they're not the same people anymore. They've been completely changed by this. So for every character that appears in the book, the first question was, how are they going to deal with this? What are the things they're going to do, and what are they going to think about the way forward? Are they even thinking about a way forward? Are they completely destroyed by what's happened? Or are they able to kind of construct something? So that psychological side was really important. And I suppose allied to that, one of the things I love about Warhammer is it's not just about the physical battle. It's not about just the armies and the bolters and the swords. There's also a spiritual side in terms of their relationship to the gods, what they think about the gods, what they think about the metaphysics of the universe, which are really real for all these people. And that's another key element that as the book goes on, people have to change their views, or their views are threatened by what's just happened. They may have come into the heresy with a whole set of beliefs, and they're now in a situation where those beliefs don't work anymore, or they've changed. And so that was really interesting for me as well. I think that people's first instinct will be to grieve for what's lost. And just as much on the traitor side.
Absolutely.
From the point of view, we call them traitors. But
there's even some traitors that are like kind of sympathetic, like, because even Horus like didn't fully embrace the ruinous powers. Ultimately he does kind of get corrupted by it, and it goes that way. But he was saying his father was a liar and a tyrant, and he kind of was. So there's even like some of the traitors, like I would say especially like the word bearers, that are like incredibly sympathetic in this moment.
They've lost as more, I think, than the Imperials in some respects. But they've got no time to grieve, which is one of the themes of the book as well, that what they might want to do is actually sit down and reflect for a long time about this. They might think about what they've lost, the things they hope to gain that they're no longer going to get. But because of the nature of this very violent universe where things move very quickly, and because of the sort of the narrative drive of the Scouring, it's essentially the time where the Imperium pushes the traitors back out. Nobody really has time to sit down properly and think about those. They're always kind of improvising. On the Imperial side, we follow two Space Marines. There's one called Titus Praetor, who is a character from the Heresy series. He was introduced in Unremembered Empire, I think. He's a senior Ultramarine. He's a librarian. And he comes in with that kind of that great kind of saving ride of the Legion that kind of saved the day on Terra. So he wasn't fighting on the ground during the siege. He comes in as a newcomer. He's had his own battles, but they're not on Terra. And he is sort of paired with, in terms of the characters, an Imperial Fist character called Arcamus, or Arcamus. We have some dispute over how to pronounce that. And he was there during the siege, and he has lived through it. And he is presented with a very different outlook at the beginning of the book. His Legion is a much worse shape than the Ultramarines, who are much more cohesive. They have an enormous amount of prestige on the Loyalist side because they were there when it mattered and they held the line.
Yeah, of course.
But they don't have the same kind of physical resource that the Ultramarines have. Their Primarchs turned up all these ships and all these armies.
And then he's going to talk about how like Gilliman's going to start to kind of take control as Regent and War Master, and they're going to resent that, and they're going to resent the changes like with the Codex Astartes and stuff like that.
So there's a real mismatch in how that works out. And of course, that creates tension. So it's quite interesting to explore how they work. They're very much the opposite ends of the Imperial war machine, I guess, in terms of where they've ended up in the siege. As you say, the Ultramarines weren't there. They come very late to the party. And I think that for the citizens of Terra, there's a real mix of emotions about that. There's a sense, well, you guys have come in and saved the situation, but you weren't really here when it was at its toughest, and you haven't seen the things that we've seen. And now you come in with all your resources and all your expertise, and there's a resentment there, I think, that this mixed with enormous gratitude as well. So it's quite a complicated set of emotions. Whereas the Imperial Fist, they were there the whole time, and their Primarch was the one who just would not give up. And at the times when it was darkest during the siege, Dawn was there. He was holding the line. And yet he's emerged, I think, much more broken than certainly than his brother Guilliman. And so there's a really complicated set of emotions on all sides, I think, about what's just happened. And then there are some other Imperial characters, one of which is Khalid Hassan, who is a non-Space Marine. He's a character who popped up in some Heresy books too, and he was one of the chosen of Malcador. And now, sort of spoiler, he's no longer got his boss around, so he now has to, like everybody in this book, work out what to do next, work out how to survive, work out how to keep himself alive, and then what's he going to do? What's his objective going?
So Malcador the Sigillite is something like a Merlin to the Emperor. He's a very powerful wizard. He's a perpetual himself. He dies in the siege because the Emperor has to basically get off the Golden Throne to go fight Horus, but they need somebody to stay on the Golden Throne to sort of keep the gates of hell back. Malcador does that, and it kills him. So all of the Psychers that were students of Malcador or in his care don't have a boss, and they're probably trying to reinvestigate their place in the Imperium now that the Emperor's gone, and all that sort of stuff.
Going forward. And then on the traitor side, we have two Space Marines as well. We have a word bearer called Adrahasis.
Let's go. Love the word bearers.
Who is I guess, within the book, he's one of the characters that really struggles with the metaphysics of the whole situation. He's a devout believer, as most word bearers are. And he's got to come to terms with the failure of the grand dream that he was so instrumental in pushing forward. He's paired up with an Iron Warrior who has a very different perspective on the universe again, doesn't have much time for gods and Primarchs, and in the same way, it's come to terms with the loss, but has very different conclusions. And of course, there's tensions there too. And there are other traitor characters that kind of orbit around those during the book. So his name is Ortag Theocon. He's a new character for the setting. And we start the book with him. He's the character that really introduced us to this world. And he's on the run, like most of the traitors. He's trying to get out. Having seen the big defeat, they got very close. He got all the way to the walls of the Imperial Palace and then had to turn around. And so his journey is very much initially survival, getting away from Terra, getting out of this big disaster that's overtaken them. And then he as things go, he meets other traitors trying to do the same thing. And they start immediately to butt heads because they've got very different ideas of how to get out, what the possibilities are. It's very desperate for them. They're all in this kind of state of shock, and it's almost like a psychic shock. Some of them, other legions have lost their Primarchs, but even these two characters who, as far as they know, haven't lost their Primarchs in time, but they're not around. They don't know where they are. And I think Theocon was a great character to write, partly because I would love to write Iron Warriors. I've not done much of that, and they're a fantastic legion with a lot of interesting history. But he was just so different from the others, so belligerent about the whole thing. He's a kind of unpleasant kind of guy, but he sees the universe fairly clearly, perhaps in ways that word bearers might not. For example, he's got quite an acute sense of kind of nonsense, and he's really a very straightforward kind of guy. And so he shows us another way of possible survival for the traitors in this period, and it's contrasted with the ways that the other characters kind of manage that.
Interesting.
I think it's one of the things I find most interesting about Warhammer in general, the relationship between mortals and gods, and the word bearers are a great way of.
I was just thinking about this.
Seeing how
I was literally thinking about this in the shower. I was thinking about this in the shower because there's some rumors that Lorgar, who's the Primarch of the word bearers, he is potentially coming back to the setting, which could align with a lot of the story and the things that they're telling here. And so Lorgar, I'll just say this: one of my favorite scenes in all of Warhammer lore is when the Emperor he takes Lorgar, he goes to Lorgar's home planet, and I think it's Monarchia was the city. I could be wrong on that. Somebody check me. But there's this part where the Emperor brings Lorgar to his own favorite city, and then has his brother Guilliman bomb the shit and destroy their most holy sacred city and everything. And the Emperor's like, the irony is Lorgar thought the Emperor was a god. And so the Emperor was telling everybody by imperial decree, there are no gods. Lorgar was like, oh shit, I think my dad's a god. And he starts this whole religion, which actually ends up being the thing that in 40K they base all of the Inquisition and Imperium on, which is another thing. But basically Lorgar, instead of doing what a lot of his brothers did, which was go from world to world to world and conquer, Lorgar went to a planet and slowly convinced them that the Emperor was a god. He wanted to do it through peace and religion rather than war. And after a while, the Emperor was like, fuck that. And he made an example of Lorgar. But he wounded Lorgar so deeply that Lorgar then goes into the Eye of Terror with the word bearers, searching for the other gods. And then Lorgar ends up being the person that kind of takes Horus to the dark side. So it's like this whole big thing. But yeah, Lorgar and the word bearers are, I think, the most fascinating of the traitor legions because of what happened on Monarchia.
And he's had the worst experience, all that faith that drove them across the galaxy for 7 years has turned out to be an enormous setback. And you're thinking about what that does. Do you just junk all your ideas and say, well, they were clearly wrong? Do you cling on to them and try and make some kind of sense of what's just happened? Those are the things that really sort of matter to him. And one of the interesting features of the Scouring settings, we really thought about how to make it distinct from other eras of history. And one of the ideas that came to the fore is that actually chaos itself has slightly changed in this era because of what happened on Terra, because of Horus and the Emperor's great clash, which was really on a metaphysical plane as much as a physical one. It's not quite the same afterwards, for a little while at least. The relationship between chaos and the universe is slightly different, and everyone's got to get their heads around that. But for word bearers, that's as hard as anything else. And so he's got a really tough set of decisions to make. And I guess his conflict is as much about that as anything else. And of course, I guess some legions are further down the road than others, even at that time. There are some that have already taken a lot of the characteristics that we'll recognize much later. And there are some that aren't. And again, one of the interesting features of this time period is that in some respects, they roll back a bit from where they were, even in the siege. There are some aspects of the universe that make the gifts that they've accepted or the roads that they've gone on actually no longer appropriate for a bit. And you begin to think, well, maybe they could take a really severe turn away from that, and maybe there's some way back for them or some other future, because we know that actually there isn't, but they don't know that. And so getting to grips with doubt on the chaos side is really important. They've had some significant advantages up till now, that the gods were present in the universe in a very direct way. It was very easy for them to think, we are doing the God's work, and we can see the signs all around us that we're on the right path. They had a lot of success, and so their success breeds success, and they can think that this shows that we're doing the right kind of thing. In the aftermath of a big defeat, and it is a big defeat for them, and with the withdrawal of some of those certainties that they've had, they're going to have a really tough time working out what to do. And I think it'll slow down some of that process that we've already seen, that they're becoming. They've got more spikes and more skulls and all of the things that we associate with them. So there's a kind of a real sort of slowing down of that process, and then they're exploring other avenues. But of course, we know where it ends up in the end, but for them, they don't. some of the political changes that are going on, certainly on the Imperial side.
Yeah, this is going to be juicy.
Where Primarchs, in many senses, have failed. The heresy
the Custodes. One of my favorite things about this is if they do this for Cavill's show, it's going to be awesome because the Custodes, I love this time period for them because, dude, they did not like the Primarchs. And they're sort of proven correct about it. And like, for instance, there's an anthology that just released, and there's the last little story in there is from the perspective of the Custodes. And it's this, dude, there's this moment where Gilliman's in there trying to tell the Custodes shit. And literally there's this moment of disrespect, and every Custodes in the room like moves to their hand to their weapon and at the same time. And they literally were about to kill Gilliman. And it just shows that, like, dude, because they literally they hate the Primarchs, but they also feel like they failed. They really retreat from the entire Imperium. They just protect the Emperor on the throne at that point, and they're barely interested in what's going on in the Imperium. And if what's really cool about that is, like, they will be like almost non-human. And that's my favorite version of the Custodes, because they really should be this kind of unknowable monument of a being that just at the same time feels like majestic and glorious, but also like terribly destructive and scary. And so I'm hoping that that's the vibe on them in the show. And if so, oh my God.
In one respect, the story of the Primarchs failing in their duties and failing in their grand project. So there are other sources of power in the universe.
Hey, don't say that, Rob.
I mean, they're not absent in the sense that they do
stuff. Going back on it?
And we know that they do stuff in the Scouring. I think one of the decisions from the narrative point of view that I think is quite interesting is that they are slightly less centered.
Guys, what army do you think Rob should start?
During the Heresy series. And this is a period on the Imperial side where non-Legion institutions really start to think, well, it's our turn now. Could we have done it better? Do we feel gratitude to the Primarchs who saved us, or do we feel that they're to blame for what happened? And so the sense that the Primarchs are no longer the only focus of this is one of the interesting parts of the book from the political side.
Adam, maybe.
Primarchs being Primarchs.
I feel like Rob is low-key a heretic. I feel like Rob would be... I feel like Rob would do some Chaos Space Marines.
Not going to go away quietly, even if they thought they ought to. And so they're still very much one of the elements of this. But the changing relationships between Primarchs and the rest of the galaxy is one of the themes. So I guess that the key decisions to make then is how are the characters that we created with their kind of attributes and their outlook, how are they going to deal with the things that we are presenting, the challenges that we're presenting them with. It's a military campaign. The Scouring is a military campaign. How are they going to rise to the challenge of that? Is it going to be like the Heresy where there's it doesn't go in the way they intend? Of course it will do in lots of ways. But having set up this cast of characters, it's really about how they respond to all of the things that the Scouring throws in their faces. I keep using the word privilege, and it really is, because we're conscious that people feel very strongly about the background and the law,
see,
and that's something that we really want to look after.
They fucking care, dude. They care. And then Taika Waititi's like, I'll ruin your mythos in a minute, baby, and make sure that we try and do the best job we can with it. And one aspect of the book is the sense that this is almost history being written. Anyone who knows the Forge World Heresy books will know there's this sort of in-universe historian's voice. There's some aspects of Ashes of the Imperium that have a similar kind of tone, that this is someone Scott, that's a good idea. Maybe I'll look into
trying to think about how they will appear to future generations, trying to give names to certain sort of patches of that history to make sense of it from looking backward. So the idea that history is being made here was a really important theme. And the other, I guess, side of that is that I was very keen to stress over and over again that nobody in this book really knows anything very much about how things will go. There isn't.
Yeah, that's true.
They don't immediately leap to the conclusion that now we're on.
Except one character. There's one character that knows a lot about what's going to happen, and that would be Constantine Valdor. Let me explain why. So Constantine Valdor is given a special spear by the Emperor himself called the Apollonian Spear. Rob, are you paying attention? This spear has an interesting ability that when you strike an opponent with its blade, you see their future. You can see their past too, but you really see like their past and their future. And it's really like their sort of soul or their cosmic destiny. You see it. And it was given to Valdor probably to because he was getting way too comfortable with killing. And the Emperor wanted to sort of pull him back a little bit. And there's a whole other discussion about Valdor. I'll talk about Dude, Valdor is like my fucking RDJ Doctor Doom, the King in Yellow shit. And Warhammer is incredible. But in the last moments of the Horus Heresy, Valdor is fighting Abaddon the Despoiler, who at the time was just like the second in command of Horus. And he lands a blow, but basically Abaddon grabs the end of the spear and stops it from going into him. And he sees Abaddon's future. And he sees 10,000 years of war, suffering, and crusades against the Imperium. And he also sees the end of that. And so during this period, because it's so interesting that during this period, Valdor leaves, dude. Valdor boogies. He's like, I'm out. But he says before he goes, only in death does duty end. And he tells Lehman, it's not over. So, yeah, dude, nobody knows what's going on except one person.
On the journey to 40K as we know it, they don't immediately leap to recognizing that universe in the way that we recognize it. They don't know that's going to happen.
John, don't worry about it.
Every time they encounter,
we were pretty much done anyway.
The sort of the real beginnings of things that we recognize much later in 40K, they don't necessarily recognize that as the future. It's one possible course. They think that things might go very differently. So that was a constant challenge for me as the author to make sure that these people don't know too much.
We're gonna get them. They don't know it yet.
In the dark
most of Valdor sees a big battle between light and dark for the fate of the Imperium. And I think there's more details to it, but he sees like this really big battle of light and dark, which is why some people think he went to go do all the King in Yellow stuff to ultimately create an army outside of the purview of the Imperium that would save the Imperium. Maybe.
A lot more was set in stone. We had that idea that things could have gone the other way. I think with the Scouring, there's even less of that kind of certainty about where they end up. There's no end point to the Scouring in the way that there is with the Heresy that we already know about. There's a genuine chance that things could turn out very unexpectedly. And they've got a lot further to go. So you can really play with that kind of counterfactual stuff. And I think it's just a fascinating thing. What could have been, what might be, and using that space a bit more to examine all those options. But one of the differences, I guess, between the Scouring and the Heresy is that there are relatively few things that we know about already in the lore. There are some big events that happen in the Scouring which are going to be part of the series, but not very many actually. So we're inventing, I think, a bit more than we were in the Heresy. In the Heresy, we knew that we had to do Calth, we knew we had to do Prospero and all those big battles. There's more invention, I think, here, and we're sort of thinking about how some of those empty spaces in the lore could be filled. So it's a slightly different sort of feeling about that. I think but it gives us opportunities. It gives us opportunities to, I think, make the galaxy feel more populated with stuff that we really genuinely don't know about at the moment. I think it's a real challenge and a privilege, which sounds a bit of a cliche, but it is. It's I mean, sitting around a room with very talented people, all of whom have contributed in the past to sort of classic Heresy or Warhammer books. It's really, we do it in person now, which is great. I mean, for a few years, obviously, we weren't able to do that. And there's nothing quite like sitting around the table and just hammering those things out and throwing ideas into the room, seeing how and ideas then will get knocked around, they'll change, and they'll develop. And it is a challenge, and sometimes it can be really quite grueling, and sometimes it can be quite difficult if there are different views in the room that clash, and we've got to work through that. Do it, though. But the end result, it's just a thrilling kind of thing, because you can see the germ of stories, and then they get turned into things that end up going into books, and they get fully formed. And it's quite, when you look back on the process, it's almost quite emotional. You think, well, you know, we were there right at the start, and we worked that thing out, and there's nothing really like it. It's great writing novels as an individual author, but doing it in a team has its own kind of special character.
Hell yeah.
So I think what people can expect from this is a look at the entire world, of the entire galaxy of the Broken Imperium, from the very bottom to the very top, showing how every soul within that drama has to respond to the way that things have changed, and how they're going to survive, and how they're going to prosper in a galaxy that's now extremely...
Watch this. Watch this.
Live from the site of the Ultramarines protests here at Warhammer World. We've just heard that in the last few minutes, the Warhammer studio released a statement effectively capitulating to the demands of the protesters. We have that footage for you now.
Our passionate fans have brought to light a terrible injustice, and we're going to put it right. Effective immediately, every release will be an Ultramarines release.
No!
Mark from Calth News, please.
God damn it. I mean, at least they're having fun with it, but that shit sucks. All right, anyway, that's going to do it. That's going to do it for today's stream. Don't worry, we're going to get them all. They're all going to become Warhammer fans, you know, even Rob. Even Rob, don't worry. Hey, don't worry. We're going to get them. We're going to get them all, okay? Things take time in the Warhammer world, you know what I mean? I didn't know Warhammer could get any worse. Hey, you don't say that, Daniel, huh? From the question I had before about Iron Man 2, could you elaborate more on what I said? I've heard nothing about that, wondering if you have. You're going to have to repeat it, buddy. I don't know exactly what you're talking about. Yo, appreciate this part of the stream, Josh. Kind of fall off DC, Marvel, and Star Wars. I need a Christine Everhart reporting. Is that a meme? Am I missing something on that? Yeah. Blueberries do get everything, and it's got to stop. It's got to stop. But yeah, guys, don't worry. We'll get everybody into Warhammer, and there's a lot of fun Marvel stuff happening. Star Wars is totally fucked, but we'll try to have fun as it burns down. Is Cillian Murphy really doing? She's the Iron Man reporter. Oh. Yeah, she was very talented. About Howard Stark tapes. Oh, the greatest correction. I mean, I don't really have anything to say about it, man. I think that it lines up with an idea that maybe Stark wasn't biologically his son, and therefore maybe he used the word creation as nurture, and his, you know, beliefs and raising the kid created Tony. And sure, you could read into that, but we don't know that it means that. Grace Randolph saying trailer next week. Yeah, it's very possible, man. I like I said, I think we're going to get some stuff on Saturday. Yep. We need some green Christmas lights in the eyes of your Doom mask. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, that'd be pretty fun. That would be pretty cool in my opinion. Yeah, I think that would be really, really cool. Okay, everybody. Well, I'm going to get on out of here. I really appreciate you guys for being here. Look out for that big video. It's either going to drop tonight or tomorrow. We're going to stream tomorrow evening. We're deep diving on that 2-hour video. Maybe there'll be some news as well. Clips will drop later today. I am out of here for now. Really appreciate y'all. And as I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.
The following program, though incredibly nerdy, is intended for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised, and you probably shouldn't watch if you're an overly sensitive pussy.
10-time champ, about to be 11. Understand I'm down to die for my leather. Bitch, live from the moon. Live from this 40-foot speedboat. I hope you brought your sea legs. Bitch, young Bronson run ting like relays. Live from the moon. Live from the moon. My third eye been popping for 10 years. I don't got no fears, I don't got no tears. I don't get caught up in the bright lights, dear. And yes, I am the human highlight reel. They say I'm built strong like pyramids in Egypt. Ever since a fetus, I have visions of a leader. Purple X6 truck driven by a cheetah. Look, it's Don Cheadle. No, it's just me, ho. Me. Live from the moon. Feel me? Yeah. Live from the moon. Under pressure like Mercury and Bowie. My man's never hot, nah, baby, you don't know me. Your boy stay cozy, laying in a bed full of roses, sipping rosy, chilling with Kobe's on. Go rollie on a phony arm. Travel stars like a Moby-Wan. Fuck Star Wars. Indiana Jones is better, bitch. Turn the bitch to Fitz Escovitch. Couple miller make me stretch the wrist. Move stones, let's make a lift. Cast my drip past the piff. Live from the moon. Live from the moon. Live from the moon. Yeah. I'm coming live from the moon. Welcome home.
As you see, here's news in the making. No logic.
Listen up. Hey yo, I chop you up in 16 pieces in front of your nieces while I'm eating Reese's and won't even offer a many. Yes, I spit plenty. This is East Coast flow at its finest. In the studio where your finest, put a bullet where your spine is. At 16, I was skipping school and smoking chronic while you was learning about English. Big L was teaching ebonics. I spit fire so demonic, writing code like I'm Masonic. A Jedi master, breaking sit down like old plaster. No medication for this track, cause this is how it's psycho rips. My bank account is like casino vote, your pockets microchips. Motherfucker, I dare you to test it. Hope you're well rested. Whoop your ass and get arrested in a double-breasted Louis Vuitton diamond and crested till I made suit. Now that's all Sinatra everything.
Is everybody gone? Because of the Warhammer segment? Did everybody leave? Because the goddamn Warhammer segment? Oh, fuck. Why don't they realize? It's the best shit ever. Hey, don't worry. We'll get him. We'll get him. We're gonna get him. It's already happening. Let's just play the long game. You know what I mean? All right. Appreciate y'all, man. I really do. Thank you for being here. As always, appreciate all the support. We're cooking. We're cooking behind the scenes. So thank you. I appreciate it. Get on out of here. Enjoy the rest of your day. But do me a favor before you do. Actually, make it 2. Oh, actually a good point. Yeah, this says starting soon, so we should probably just do this one. Do me a favor, though. Open up your third eye and wash out your stinky buddy.
Somebody closer to the coffin. Quit vaping and stop coughing. Rest in peace to the villain. I'm Andy Kaufman. Foot on the gas. Niggas mad cause I pass. Black to the future. In a cleft like a suture. Straight to the gut kombucha. Fuck a cake. Fuck until she gape. Then inseminate. Ain't great. Tour bus state to state. We integrate. Take 15-year-old vocals and then incorporate the same voice but a later date. Nincompoop. Just let the haters hate. If you feel like it's no longer your house, then migrate. Don't fight with them. Do your best to find eyesight with him. Speak at a turn and I might hit him. His muse had always right with him. His right hand was fly like right wing. And the rhyme with a joint from Spike Lee. Yeah, that's do the right thing. He might rage, he might bust at a 6 string and sing.